Eye Care America helps seniors who haven't had a medical eye exam in 3 or more years. They also help those with an increased...
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. I hope you had a great weekend. Sorry to the Evansville University baseball fans out there. Those Tennessee Volunteers, man, that's just a really good college baseball team. So sorry to them. If you're a Mavs fan watching the finals, I'm grieving with you. Mavs go down 2-0. And if you're a sports fan in general, then chances are you heard the latest Caitlin Clark news, and that is where I'm going to start today. Caitlin Clark did not make the U.S. women's national team for the upcoming Olympics. Some people are outraged. Some people are fine with it. I'm sure there are some WNBA players out there that are quite pleased with the fact that Caitlin Clark was not selected to this year's Olympic team. I'll be honest, because that's, I am Indianapolis's honesty broker. I'm not going to sit in here. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to make up some fake outrage thing about how Caitlin Clark didn't make the team. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to be honest. I don't care. I don't care at all. Even if Caitlin Clark was on the Olympic team, there's no way that I was going to watch any of their games. And honestly, I doubt most people would have watched even if Caitlin Clark was on the team. Okay, now nobody's going to watch, which isn't good for the WNBA, but they clearly don't care about their own well-being. Now, why do I say that I don't care? Why do I say that I wasn't going to watch anyway? Why do I say that I don't think most people would have watched anyway? That's because the United States women's basketball team, the Olympic team, crushes everybody. In 2016, going back 2 Olympics ago, they won the gold medal game against Spain by 29 points. In 2021, because of COVID, remember the Olympics got pushed. That year, they won the gold medal game against Japan by 25. Okay, I was going through some of the scores. They beat a team by 50. They doubled a team up one time. Like, they just absolutely dominate everybody that they play against. And guess what? Even if Caitlin Clark had made the Olympic team, we would have watched the first quarter, then been like, oh, they're up by 27. Let me turn this off. No matter who's on the team. Like, I don't stick around to watch blowouts, and most people don't. Most people aren't sitting around watching games when a team is up by 30. It doesn't happen. Okay, now with that being said, if I was my boss is on vacation, but if he was here, he'd be like, Jonathan, you need to have more of an opinion than just it doesn't matter, which is fair because I am in the opinion industry. So I have something more than just that. They should have put her on the team. Like, all things considered, Caitlin Clark should have been selected to the women's Olympic team this year. It's not out of the ordinary for the NBA to put the number 1 overall draft pick on their Olympic team before. They did it with Christian Laettner in 1992, that first dream team. If there is any Olympic team in any sports that rightfully could have been like, you know what, no, we don't want the first overall pick on this year's draft team, it was the 92 dream team. Because there were so many good players in the league at that time who I'm sure would have loved to have also played on the Olympic team. But it's just common practice in the NBA for them to bring on some younger players and get them indoctrinated into just how Olympic basketball works. That's why the United States Olympic team this year, for on the men's side, elected to put Tyrese Halliburton on the team because they know that he's a part of the future of the league. And next year, or in 4 more years, when the next Olympics rolls around, they're going to have a guy in the locker room who just knows how it works. Same thing with Anthony Edwards. That's also why he's on the team. They have selected some younger guys that are going to be around longer that may not play as much, just so that in 4 years they have guys in the locker room who know what's going on and can kind of help lead the way. That should have been the role for Caitlin Clark, but they opted not to put her on the team. And they should have. I still can't believe that they didn't. And their reasoning as to why they didn't put her on the team is total crap. Christy Brennan of CBS gave out this report. She got an anonymous statement from people that are associated with the Olympic team. Here's what the quote is, according to Christy Brennan of CBS. Quote, two other sources, both longtime U.S. basketball veterans with decades of experience in the women's game, told USA Today Sports Friday that concern over how Clark's millions of fans would react to what would likely be limited playing time on a stacked roster was a fact in the decision-making. If true, that would be an extraordinary admission of the tension that this multi-million-dollar sensation who signs autographs for dozens of children before and after every game has caused for the old guard of women's basketball. The two people spoke on condition of anonymity because of the sensitivity of the matter, end quote. In other words, Caitlin Clark signs too many autographs. In other words, her popularity bothers the older players, which is ridiculous. They should be happy for Caitlin Clark. They should be happy with where women's basketball is going, but instead they want to be petty. They're like, oh, no, we're good. Sorry, pass. We don't want her on the team. That's just ridiculous. It's like these, women who have been in the WNBA for a long time, they have sat around with, megaphones yelling out, hey, everyone, please pay attention to women's basketball. Also, by the way, when one player shows up that you actually want to pay attention to, we are not going to allow her to play with us. Sorry, but please still watch us. This is a mistake. The WNBA is making a fundamental mistake here. Part of why the NBA is successful is because it is a global sport. There are people in China who watch. There are people in Europe who watch. Like, it has the attention of the entire world. Caitlin Clark has the ability to grab people's attention on a global stage. Okay, that's more eyes, that's more revenue, all those good things, right? And here's the thing. Once again, they're going to thump everyone that they play. So why not have Caitlin Clark on the team? Okay, in terms of the results, it doesn't matter which WNBA players they choose. They could pick the 12 worst WNBA players, and they would still win gold. That is the gap. Okay? They should have put Caitlin Clark on the team. Obviously, Caitlin Clark was asked questions about it earlier this week at practice. She was asked just a ton of questions. The initial question, though, on what was her reaction to not making the team. Here's her answer to that question and many others.
Yeah, I think
if I could get this to work, that'd be great. Once again, here's Caitlin Clark answering questions as to why she didn't make the Olympic team and just her reaction to it. That is where we start.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for the girls that are on the team. I know it's the most competitive team in the world, and I know it could have gone either way of me being on the team and not being on the team. So, I'm excited for them. I'm going to be rooting them on to win gold. I was a kid that grew up watching the Olympics. So, it'll be fun to watch them.
What was your level of disappointment not having your name on the roster?
Honestly, no disappointment. Like, I think it just gives you something to work for. That's a dream. Hopefully one day I can be there, and I think it's just a little more motivation. You remember that, and hopefully in 4 years, when 4 years comes back around, I can be there.
Did you have a direct conversation with managing director or whoever's over there at USAB recently?
Yeah, they called me and let me know, and before everything came out, which was really respectful of them, and I appreciated that. And they did the same for every girl that made the team or every girl that didn't make the team. There's a lot of players in the Olympic pool, so it wasn't like I was the only one they had to call. They had to make quite a few calls.
Are you looking forward to a break, from Olympic action? Basketball in general, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be really nice. I mean, I've loved competing every single second, but it's going to be a great month for my body to, first of all, like, get rest and get healthy and just get a little time away from basketball and the craziness of everything that's been going on, and, just find some peace and quiet for myself. But then additionally, like, a great opportunity for us to work and get better, a great opportunity for myself to get in the weight room, to work on the court and work at things that I want to get better at that I maybe didn't have time going from college to the pro season. So I'm looking forward to it. But at the same time, like, we still have a month of games where we have a lot of opportunities to win a lot of games. So that's where my main focus is.
That was Caitlin Clark answering questions as to her reaction to not making the Olympic team and all the other things that kind of came with that. Caitlin Clark is clearly disappointed by not making the Olympic roster, but look, she handles the media so well. Like, she's just very nice, doesn't call anybody out, always says the right thing, and those things matter. Like, that's what you want from your best player. Like, if that's the star of your franchise, you don't want some loudmouth who's going to say stupid things. That is not at all who Caitlin Clark is, and that is a very important aspect of being the face of a franchise, and more importantly, the face of a league, which she is. She is the face of the WNBA, and despite her disappointment, she hit on this in her answers there. There is a bright side to her not making the Olympic team. She finally gets to rest. The first game of her collegiate season at Iowa happened on November 6th of 2023. She is in her 8th consecutive month of intense, nonstop basketball. She needs a break. Okay, she does. She is in dire need of a break. She needs to rest. This is probably the longest stretch of intense high-level basketball she's ever played in her life. And for reference, the Mavericks and the Celtics started their regular season around the same time, late October. So they've also been playing for 8 months, and they're almost done. Okay, like 8 straight months of high-intensity basketball is just a lot. And the Fever season is set to end in late September, right? Like, so if they make the playoffs and play into October, and if Caitlin Clark was also to make the Olympic roster, that would be 11 straight months of intense, high-quality basketball. Okay, for the Fever, I think it's a great thing that she did not make the Olympic team. She needs a break. Okay, I get that she's only 22 and that when you're 22 years old, you recover quickly and, playing this much really isn't that big of a deal and all that kind of stuff. But the rest is needed and it's well-deserved. It is. Okay, and she doesn't need a ton of rest. I think 3 weeks is going to do great things for her. It's not like she's, 35, 36, 37 with, 12 years worth of basketball wear and tear on her body. Like she's not that. She just needs a little time off. And those 3 weeks of rest are going to be huge for Caitlin Clark. The rest is needed. It's well deserved. She doesn't need to go to Paris to play more basketball that most people aren't really even going to watch anyway, because at some point the U.S. women's team is going to go up by like 20, 25, and we're going to turn it off, even if Caitlin Clark's on the floor. Okay, the best thing for Clark and the best thing for the Fever is her not making the Olympic team. Okay, here's the other thing that I've taken away from this latest Caitlin Clark WNBA storyline. I said last week that Caitlin Clark was or is the most polarizing athlete that we've seen since Tim Tebow. Okay, she has been the main topic of conversation over and over and over again, really since the national championship game. And eventually this is going to be a bad thing. I think eventually people are going to get Caitlin Clark fatigue. Okay, like right now, it's great exposure for the WNBA. Like they've never been talked about like this before. But eventually people are going to get tired of the drama. And this is once again, this is a non-basketball related thing where it's like, oh, the older players didn't want her on the team. They were concerned that she was going to draw too much attention and that people would get upset if she didn't play. Like it's more drama. It's more stuff that doesn't really have to do with basketball. And eventually people are going to get tired of it. At some point, the conversation around Caitlin Clark and the WNBA needs to be about the actual sport. It needs to be about basketball, not drama. Okay, most of the people watching the WNBA are men, and they're watching it because they enjoy sports and they enjoy basketball. I guarantee you that there's not a lot of crossover between the WNBA's audience and the Kardashian audience, okay? Like, because most people that watch sports aren't super interested in drama-filled things, okay? So eventually, the conversation around the WNBA and Caitlin Clark needs to be about basketball. And the issue with that, though, is that Caitlin Clark just hasn't been good enough for people to actually discuss the way that she's playing basketball. Now, let's talk about Friday night, because she was awesome. on Friday night. She finally did all the things that people want her to do in the WNBA. Friday night against the Mystic. They won, right? They go on the road to Washington, D.C. in front of 20,000 people and win 85-83. They win by 2. Close game. Good game. Really fun to watch. And, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching it. I'm like, this is great. She's doing all the things that I want her to do. She scored 30 points, pulled down 8 rebounds, had 6 assists. She was 8 of 15 shooting from the field, so she was efficient. She was 7 of 13 from 3. I mean, like, that should have been the topic today, right? Like, the headline on ESPN, so to speak, should have been, has Caitlin Clark finally figured it out, right? With like a little video for hitting that sidestep 30-footer. After like a scramble for the ball. It was awesome. It was fun. It was entertaining, right? She was all the things that people wanted her to be. But it's not the topic today because of this Olympic team announcement and drama. Like, this news could have cut it. I'm not going to say it came at the worst time, but there are definitely better times for this news story to break because she was great on Friday night. I caught the end, right, where she iced the game. I went back Saturday morning after winning many pickleball matches, and I watched the full game, start to finish. She played a good game, right? Outside of the turnover, she had 8. But here's the thing: like, when she's hitting step back 30-footers and they're winning, I don't think people really care about the turnovers. She did all the things that people love. Okay, she made some impressive passes. She also made some bad ones that led to the 8 turnovers. But hey, who cares? We'll ignore those. Okay, she hit a ton of threes. Some of them were really tough. She played a good game outside of the turnovers. Like, she was entertaining. Like, I texted one of my buddies. I was like, did you see Caitlin Clark last night? Did you watch the WNBA game last night? I've never texted any of my buddies that sentence ever before. It was entertaining. It was fun. And sadly, that's not what the focus is today, though. The focus is on the pettiness and this drama-filled WNBA. And I think that if this continues to be all about drama, then people are going to get tired of it, and they will eventually tune the WNBA out. Okay, something that's not filled with a lot of drama is the Boston Celtics and Dallas Mavericks in NBA Finals. Celtics up 2-0. I'm going to talk about that series and a bet that I actually made, a 50K bet that I made when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Often imitated, never duplicated. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Tickets, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Tickets. Just wrapped up talking Caitlin Clark, the Fever. Caitlin Clark not being selected to the Olympic team, all that fun stuff. The Fever play tonight, 7 o'clock on NBA TV. Hopefully you'll be able to tune in and watch them as they take on the Connecticut Sun. Now, I made a bet last night. No, not last night. A couple nights ago. So I found out the other day that in June, there was a race in Indiana that runs the entire Monon Trail. You run from Sheridan all the way to the garage in downtown Indy. It's a 50K, which is 31 miles. My mom, huge runner. My mom loves to run. Okay, she's ran 2 marathons. She's ran a couple half marathons. Like, she just loves to run, right? And like, she's probably going to run another marathon here at some point. So being the good son that I am, wanting to talk to my mother because I know she wants to talk to me, because what mom doesn't like to hear from her kids from time to time, especially when they live 6 hours away. So I see this video of this guy running a 50K along the Monon Trail. I send it to my mom on Instagram because, you know, it's something that I thought she would like. Good conversation starter. She sends it back. She's like, "Hey, Jonathan, I will run this with you," right? Because you must have sent this to me because you want to run 50 kilometers with me. It's like, no, that's not why I sent it. I sent it because I thought that you'd like it, but okay. Anyway, we have now reached a point because I love my mother, and you know, when she asks me to do things, I have to at least consider them. We've now reached a point where if the Mavericks win the NBA Finals, I will run this 50K race with her. That was the deal we made. It's my emotional hedge. If the Mavericks lose, then, you know, I'll be happy that I don't have to run 50 kilometers because I hate running with a passion. It's the worst thing ever. Okay, I want weights. Okay, big weights get dates. That's just how it works. So I don't understand why people run, but yeah. So if the Mavs come back to win the series, you know, I'll be happy because the Mavericks won. But then I'll have a long road ahead of me in terms of getting ready for that 50K. So that happened over the weekend, and I got to be honest, I'm not worried about having to run a 50K after watching games 1 and 2 between the Boston Celtics and the Dallas Mavericks. Like the Celtics did what they're supposed to. They defended home court. I thought the Mavericks were much better in game 2 than they were in game 1. I think the Mavs are really kicking themselves for losing game 2 because that's like Jason Tatum didn't play well. Boston didn't shoot well. Luka played well. Like, a lot of things lined up for the Mavericks to steal a game on the road, and it didn't happen. With that being said, I still thought they were much better in game 2 than they were in game 1. Luka had a normal game, 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists. That he did a better job of getting his teammates involved. The issue was Kyrie Irving struggled once again, 7 of 18 from the floor for 16 points. Just isn't going to cut it. Okay, if you're the second best player on a finals team and you take more shots than you score points, that's a red flag. That's not good. It's not going to cut it. Okay, the Mavs actually got some contributions from role players in game 2, which they didn't get in game 1. PJ Washington scores 17 points. Daniel Gafford scored 13. Derrick Jones Jr. scored 11. And look, when the role players show up, especially on the road, your stars better show up as well. Luka did, Kyrie didn't. And that's why they lost. And that can't happen. Okay, the other thing for Dallas was they didn't shoot the ball well from anywhere. They were 6 for 26 from 3. Okay, they were 7 of 27 in game 1. They haven't shot the ball well in either game. To be fair, though, I thought their looks in game 2 were better. They just didn't make them. Okay, Luka was 4 of 9 from 3, and everyone else was a combined 2 for 17. Kyrie Irving didn't make 1. That's horrendously bad. If the Celtics had shot average, because they didn't shoot the ball very well either, they would have blown the Mavericks out last night. Right? And in addition to locking up Kyrie Irving, the Celtics grabbed 10 offensive rebounds. Like, if you're Dallas, you can't give up 10 offensive rebounds. The Mavericks also turned the ball over 15 times and gave up 21 points off of turnovers. That can't happen. Like, in all seriousness, Dallas deserved to be blown out last night. That game should not have been a contest. Boston should have won by 20, but they didn't shoot well. And when you play an offensive style that Boston plays, like, you're going to have nights where you just don't shoot the ball very well. And on those nights, you have to rely on your defense, which they did. It's been good. It has been. I think Boston's been great defensively, right? Outside of Luka, but once again, there's no one in the world who's going to slow that guy down. Looking at the Mavericks, though, because I don't think that Boston's going to change much. I don't think that there's much that they really can change, especially with how things are going. Why would they change everything? When it comes to the Mavericks, their issue isn't on defense. They only gave up 107 points last night. They gave up like 104 points in game one. The issue is on offense because, like I said, like, their defense has been better. I thought it was much better last night than it was in game one, actually. The rotations were better. They closed out better. They didn't give up on possessions as quickly as they did in game one. Because here's the thing. When you play Boston, you're going to give up open threes. It's going to happen. That's just the way that Boston plays. Their guys that they have with the ball are just too good. You're not going to stay in front of them. They're going to get into their drive and kick game. The question is, how many open threes are you going to allow, and is Boston going to make them? Dallas, I thought, did a good job of limiting them. But look, at some point, like, you have to score if you're going to win. And they didn't. The reality of this series has been Dallas has been so good in the half court defensively. They have been. They're holding Boston to 96 points per 100 possessions in the half court, which that's really good. Like, that's awesome in today's NBA. Okay, for Boston, that is 10 points below their average in the playoffs, and it's about 10 points lower than their regular season in average, which led the NBA. The Boston Celtics led the NBA in half-court offense. They did. They were great at it all year, and the Mavericks have done a good job in the half-court of limiting that great offense. It's the lack of production from Kyrie Irving, the lack of shooting from role players, the turnovers, they had 15 of them last night, and the transition scoring that is killing the Mavericks. That's why they're down in this series. And the thing is, the turnovers should be fixable. Should be. You would think that at some point Kyrie Irving gets going. So if you're a Mavericks fan, don't panic. I'm not panicking yet. Am I a little concerned? Yes. But I'm not panicking because I thought that last night, the Mavericks, the offense looked better. But here's the thing. Your offense can look great. It doesn't matter if you don't finish the possession with a bucket. Okay, you can have the best offense all time, but if you don't finish the play, it does you no good. So, once again, like, I'm not panicking, but I am a little worried about the series for the Mavericks. I'm picking them to win game 3 because you can't fake desperation. You can't. Mavs are going to be more desperate in game 3. They'll probably force more turnovers. They'll rebound better. They'll do all those things. And they'll be at home as well, so I'm going to take them to win on Wednesday. The line opened with Dallas being favored by 1.5 points. My concern, though, is Kyrie Irving. I've said this before on the air. I'm going to continue to say it because I think that it's true. Basketball is made for big people. Just is. Okay, basketball was not invented for guys that are short. And sadly, 6'2" is short now. Okay? Basketball is not made for guys that are 6'2". You need to be like 6'4", 6'5". You have to be big. Kyrie is 6'2", and it's obvious. He looks tiny on the floor compared to everybody else, and that's part of why he has struggled. The size and the length of these Celtic defenders has absolutely swallowed Kyrie Irving up in spots. Because look, when you're 6'2" and you're being defended by a guy in Jaylen Brown who's like 6'7" and just as quick as you are, tough to score, tough to create space to get off a good shot. Right. And so what do the Mavericks do? They set a screen and they get Jaylen Brown off of Kyrie Irving. But the issue is he looks up and it's like, oh, now I got Jason Tatum, who's 6'10" with like a 7-foot wingspan. Let me see if I can get by this guy who's a fantastic athlete. Like, that's hard. So the Mavericks like, oh, okay, let's screen again. And then you look up, it's like, oh, I got Drew Holiday on me. Just one of the best perimeter defenders in the league who's 6'5" and crazy strong. It's hard. Like, this Boston team defensively is good, and they're making things difficult on Kyrie, and that's why they've won games 1 and 2. Kyrie just hasn't played well. Okay, he was 6 of 16, I believe, from the floor in game 1, 7 of 18 from the floor in game 2. Like, he has to get going. And when I watch this series and I think about the Pacers, my favorite thing about Tyrese Halliburton is that he's 6'5". Yes, he's skinny. He needs to get in the gym. He needs to thicken up a little bit, but 6'5" and long. Can't teach that. He's tall and he's long. And because of that, we will never see a defense just swallow up Tyrese Halliburton, right? Like even against Boston before he got hurt, like they couldn't make him uncomfortable because he was just as big as all these other guys that were defending him. And with Kyrie, that's just something that isn't going to happen. He's going to be uncomfortable in this series because he's by far the smallest player on the floor. He just is. When he gets to the rim, which he's an absolute wizard when he gets to the rim, it feels impossible for him to finish. And sometimes he does because he's Kyrie Irving and he's one of the best small finishers that we've ever seen, but it's so difficult for him, right? And when it comes to his jump shots, it's tough too because even if he generates space, these guys, the Jason Tatums and the Jaylen Browns and the Drew Holidays and even Porzingis and Al Horford, they're so much bigger and longer than him that they're able to get a good contest. The length of the Celtics is on full display in this series, and it's most noticeable when they're defending Kyrie Irving. Basketball, not made for little people. Dallas, if they want to win the series, they got to find a way to make life easier on Kyrie Irving because they aren't winning the series unless he can figure out a way to score the basketball. And as I've watched this series, there are just some things that have become glaringly obvious, especially about the Pacers, right? Because as I watch Boston, I'm like, what's the difference between this team and the Indiana Pacers? What are the similarities? The biggest differences are obviously on the defensive end of the floor. Boston defensively is just so much more flexible than what the Indiana Pacers are. So when we come back from break, we're going to take a short one. I want to highlight one of the things, though, that Boston and Indiana have in common that is a real advantage for them over their opponents and should be an advantage for them over these next couple years. I also want to touch on the nonsense that Jason Kidd said after game 1 about Jaylen Brown. I'm going to get into all that when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up! and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 1, 5, and 10 gig data plans with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon January 2024.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, and the process is 100% online. To start your free online visit, go to hims.com/joy. That's HIMS.com/JOY.
Welcome back to The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thanks for listening. No matter how you're listening, whether that's on the Indy Sports Ticket app, maybe you're watching live on Twitter, follow us at Ticket1430 to watch the stream there, or you can head over to YouTube, search for Indy's Sports Tickets, and the YouTube page should pop up. You can watch the stream there. You can comment. You can do all those fun things. Still on the NBA Finals. You know, this weekend was hanging out. Excited for just a nice, peaceful, relaxing weekend. You know, so many of my weekends, you know, over the past few months have been filled with sports. It's been a lot of just sitting down, watching games. I'm not complaining. I have the best job in the world. It's pretty great. But, you know, I wanted to take some time to myself this weekend. So I played several hours of pickleball in the morning, you know, hung out with my wife. The weather was absolutely beautiful. And put my phone on Do Not Disturb all day Saturday. It was great. You know, I wasn't on my phone a ton. It was really nice. But the few times that I, of course, like any human being, went over to Twitter and I'm scrolling around and this nonsense from Jason Kidd popped up on my timeline, and I had to make a quick comment on it. Here's the nonsense from Jason Kidd that I am referring to.
Well, Jalen's the best player, so just looking at what he does defensively, he picked up Luka full court. He got to the free throw line. He did everything, and that's what, you know, your best player does. You know, just understanding. You know, he plays both sides, defense and offense, at a high rate, and he's been doing that the whole playoffs. I mean, when you talk about the Eastern Conference MVP, and it seems like he's continued to pick up where he left off, And so he's playing at a high rate. We just got to be a little bit more physical with him. And again, we got to keep him off the free throw line and out of the paint because, again, he was finishing at a high rate or he was getting fouled and getting to the free throw line.
That was Jason Kidd. He was asked about the task of defending Jaylen Brown, and his response was, well, he's their best player, so it's not very easy, right? And then he proceeded to give all these reasons as to why it wasn't very easy to defend Jaylen Brown. And look, as you know, as a Mavs fan, this makes me nervous because look, Jason Tatum's the best player on the Celtics. It's not Jaylen Brown, okay? And this felt like a real like mind games thing from Jason Kidd of like, I'm going to say this, maybe Jason Tatum, who loves Kobe Bryant, will be really selfish because of it and try to prove that he's the best player. Maybe that'll throw them out of the rhythm. That's not what happened if you watch game 2. And I was like, oh man, that's not good. The other reason why this isn't good is because this is an idea that's been floated out there a few times over the past couple years, and it's not true. It's not true. Okay, Jason Tatum is a better basketball player than Jaylen Brown. Like, I know that Jason Kidd was just trying to play mind games, but there are people out there who actually believe this. And those people are going to point to the box scores of games 1 and 2 as their evidence, and the fact that Jaylen Brown won Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and all these different things that have happened really recently. Here's the thing, though. The Mavericks, who Jason Kidd is the head coach of, have put their best wing defender on Jason Tatum and shown him 2 bodies consistently, not Jaylen Brown. The Pacers put their best wing defender on Jason Tatum, not Jaylen Brown. The Cleveland Cavaliers put their best wing defender on Jason Tatum, not Jaylen Brown. The Miami Heat put their best wing defender on Jason Tatum and not Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is a talented player. He is. Okay? Jaylen Brown could be the best player on a lot of different teams. Could be. So when you put the lesser defender on Jaylen Brown, he's going to score. He's going to find success. He's going to put up numbers when that happens. And Jason Tatum has grown. He had 11 assists last night. Like, that's incredible for him. He's improved as a playmaker, but he's grown and he's willing to defer to his teammate in Jaylen Brown, who has a more favorable matchup. That's just being a good teammate. It doesn't take away from the fact that Jason Tatum is one of the 6 best basketball players on the planet. Okay? He didn't play well last night. He didn't shoot the ball great in game 1. But look, he was a rebound away from a triple-double. That's a statement that you make about guys that are competing to be the best player in the world. Oh, he didn't play well last night. He just had 18 points, 11 assists, and 9 rebounds. But yeah, he didn't play very well. You know, he didn't have a good game by his standards. Right? Like that, like those are statements we make about the best players in the world. And that's a statement that people are making about Jason Tatum right now. Right? He hasn't shot the ball well in games 1 and 2. That happens to players sometimes. In spite of that, though, Jason Tatum's been impactful in every other area. Okay, he's been great rebounding. His playmaking has been good. Defensively, he's been great. He's been good. Like, don't let these last 2 Boston Celtics games fool you. Jason Tatum's the better player. Like, he's the best player on that team. Okay, and at some point, his shot's gonna start going down. And as a Mavericks fan, like, that scares the piss out of me. Okay, like, once he gets going, if Kyrie Irving doesn't show up, the Mavericks don't stand a chance. I feel like a lot of the discourse around this series has been Kyrie Irving's got to get going at some point. Well, here's the thing. Like, he's like, I believe that Kyrie Irving will eventually get going. I think a lot of people feel that way. But Jason Tatum's also going to get going at some point, and that is not a good thing for Dallas. The other thing that I wanted to hit on, when I sit back and I watch the Celtics, I love watching them play because their offense is so good. They generate so many open looks. And I watch the Celtics, and this thing that sits at the forefront of my mind is that I watch them and I'm like, this is why the Pacers are so good on offense. Okay, the reason why the Boston Celtics are so great and why they led the league in offensive rating on the offensive end during the regular season is because of Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford. Their ability to shoot the ball makes things so much easier on everyone else because they can stand 30 feet away from the basket. There's no one at the rim. Nobody. That means when you get 2 feet in the paint and you're playing when you're defending the Celtics, if they get 2 feet in the paint, someone has to collapse. Someone has to come help the guy who has the basketball. The ball then kicks out. Then the defense is in rotation. Like, that's the whole goal of every offense. We want to make the defense rotate as much as possible because that's how you get good looks. And that's what Boston does. That's why they're so hard to stop. That's what the Pacers do. That's why they're so hard to stop. They just do it in slightly different manners. But the reason why they're able to do it is the exact same thing. Okay, Boston did it in the first round of Miami. They did it in the second round of the Cavaliers, and they did it to the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. They were able to consistently get the other team to rotate, and now they're doing that against the Mavericks in the NBA Finals. They generate so many open threes, and it's all done the same way. Their best players went off the dribble, then they kick it out. And they're only able to do that, though, because Porzingis and Horford aren't clogging up the lane. Instead, they're standing 35 feet away from the bucket to shoot the three. The best offenses in the NBA, all three of them, when we look at the top three offenses this year, number one were the Boston Celtics at 122 points per 100 possessions. Number two were your Indiana Pacers at 120.5 points per 100 possessions. And the Thunder were third at 118 points per 100 possessions. All three of them have the exact same thing in common. They have multiple ball handlers who can get to the rim, and they all have a big guy that can step out and knock down threes. The Celtics have Porzingis and Horford. The Pacers have Myles Turner. The Thunder have Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams. All three of them have bigs, have centers that can step out and consistently knock down threes. Myles Turner is a large reason why the Pacers offense is as dynamic as it is. Okay, if you're shorter than 6'10" in the NBA, then you got to be able to shoot the ball. Okay, if you're 6'10" or taller, though, if you can rebound, if you can finish at the rim, if you can set good screens, if you can block some shots, then you'll play in the NBA for a long time. That's why I think Khalil Ware, who's going to be a first-round pick out of IU this year, I think that's why he's going to play in the league for 8+ years. At a minimum, he's going to block shots, he's going to rebound, he's going to finish around the rim, right? And he shot the ball decently well at IU this year. That could be a part of his game that develops, and if that happens, then watch out. He's going to play in the league for much longer than just 8 years. But if you can do those things as a center, then you're going to play in the league for 8 years or more. But if you got a big man that can shoot the three, it's like having a Tempur-Pedic mattress. Okay, like a normal mattress works just fine, right? Like if you get a normal mattress that doesn't have any of the fancy stuff, you're going to sleep fine. You're wake up in the morning. May have to pop your back a little bit, but all in all, like you're going to be fine. Like having a Tempur-Pedic mattress is a luxury, just like how having a center that can step out and shoot the three is a luxury. It's not a necessity, but it just makes your life better. Myles Turner is that for the Pacers. Myles Turner is a luxury that makes life better for the Pacers on offense. Okay, the Pacers led the league in points scored in the paint this year, which is a really interesting thing because it's not like the Pacers are posting guys up. They aren't. And the reason why they led the league in points in the paint is because of Myles Turner. And if you don't believe me, if you want to sit there and you want to say that Myles Turner isn't very good and that he's a waste of space and the fact that he's making $20 million a year is ridiculous and all that kind of stuff, then watch the Boston Celtics play in these Eastern Conference Finals. Every shot they get at the rim is so much easier because they're either at the bucket alone or they're finishing over a non-big, right? A non-center. They aren't finishing over Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively in this series. They're finishing over Kyrie Irving, who's 6'2". And they're only able to do that because Porzingis and Al Horford are able to step away from the bucket. Okay? And the Pacers did the exact same thing this year. They did. They said, hey, Myles Turner, you're going to stand 30 feet away from the basket, and you're going to knock down some threes for us. And he was like, okay, I can do that. When you have a center that can space the floor, it just makes things so much easier on everybody else. Also, three's worth more than two, so we would We would like to attempt and make more of those than our opponent. So many of the Pacers shots at the rim this year were easier. Okay, they made 67% of their shots at the rim, which was one of the top percentages in the NBA. And that's because Myles Turner was 30 feet away from the basket. He wasn't dragging down a 7-footer to be in the way. And as I sit and I watch the NBA Finals, this idea sits at the forefront of my mind. I don't know what it is. I can't quit Myles Turner. Okay? I think he's important. He is. And as I watch these finals, I'm like, geez, this is what Myles Turner does for the Pacers. And I know that there are Pacers fans out there watching this series wishing that Myles Turner was more like Kristaps Porzingis. They're the exact same player. They do the exact same thing. Now, is Porzingis better? Yes, of course. I'm not here to tell you that Myles Turner is better than Kristaps Porzingis. Okay, that's not true. Porzingis is a better player than Myles Turner. That's not the point of this statement. But I will tell you that their impact on the game offensively is similar. They space the floor. They pull bigs away from the bucket to make shots at the rim way easier. Once again, Myles Turner, not better than Porzingis, but the impact that he has on offense is pretty significant. And I'm out here, I'm defending Myles Turner once again. I'm taking up my sword. I don't know why I do it. No one ever really seems to agree with me when I do it, but I know there are Pacers fans watching this Celtics offense and they're realizing geez, Porzingis makes it so much easier on this Boston offense because it's just easier to score when your center's not standing in the paint, when they can step out from 30 feet and score. It just makes things easier. And that's what Myles Turner provides for the Pacers. And it was an important aspect for the Pacers this season. It was the spacing and the ability to get into the lane and finish. I remember going back and looking at box scores after playoff games for the Pacers, and it's like, geez, man, they have so many points in the paint. Why is that? Because they aren't posting up or anything of that nature. It's because of Myles Turner and his ability to step out, pull the big away from the bucket, and go to work. Now, the Porzingis thing is interesting because he's hurt. He tweaked his leg last night. He played a few possessions. He gets pulled out. He didn't come back in. So if he's done for the series, that is going to have a dramatic impact on the series going forward because the Celtics will be forced to either go small, which Joe Mazzulla doesn't want to do, or they're going to have to play Luke Cornett, who can't space the floor like Porzingis can, which now allows Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford to hover around the rim and block shots. It does. And that is the thing that Kristaps Porzingis doesn't allow because of the spacing that he provides, just like Myles Turner. Okay? I mean, having guys that can stand out on the perimeter and knock down threes and pull bigs away from the bucket or just pull shot blockers in general, it doesn't really matter. So it's fun to watch. That's something that Dallas is missing. This series would be so much easier on them if they had another big that could step out and shoot the ball a little bit better, right? Because, Lively and Gafford bring Porzingis, who's an excellent shot blocker. They bring him down to the rim, and now Luke has got to finish over those guys, which is difficult. So Porzingis, major impact for the Boston Celtics offense, just like how Myles Turner has a big impact on the Indiana Pacers offense. Okay? Both teams, fun to watch. The series is good. Dallas is going to be fine, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit worried. When we come back here in a few minutes, Caitlin Clark, not selected to the Olympic team. She has a statement on it. I'm going to get to that when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Is switching your wireless service to Total by Verizon easy?
Totalmente.
Now you can get 50% off any unlimited data phone plan. That's one line for only $25 a month, and you keep the phone you love. Hurry, this is a limited time offer. So find a store or switch suavemente at totalbyverizon.com. Offer ends July 31st, 2024. Promo subject to cancellation after 12 months. Available exclusively online and in Total by Verizon stores. Requires a compatible unlocked device and SIM. See totalbyverizon.com for device compatibility and additional details. Taxes and fees may apply.
With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. Kind of like choosing Derek Jeter as the pinch hitter for your baseball team.
Jeter, you're in. We need a home run.
I'll give it a try. I've swung a bat once or twice.
That's out of here.
Yep, even easier than that. With no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees, is it even a decision? That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A. member FDIC.
People join Walk MS to raise awareness and funds that change the world for everyone affected by multiple sclerosis. MS attacks the brain and spinal cord. It's the most common neurological disease leading to disability in young adults. Walk MS brings communities together, creating teams with friends, loved ones, and coworkers to rally around those we care about and end MS forever. Join us. Together we are stronger. Walk MS fundraising accelerates research breakthroughs and life-changing breakthroughs. It will take all of our passion, determination, and fundraising to end MS forever. Together, we can change the world for people with MS. Join us. Register today, start a team, and raise funds at walkms.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for...
It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hope you're having a great day. Hour number 2 of the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Make sure you head over to YouTube. Subscribe to Indy's Sports Ticket. And while you're there, hop in the YouTube. Because it's a great time. We've got several great people in there. If you want to be a part of the conversation, that is where to be. And the conversation on Caitlin Clark just doesn't stop. It just doesn't stop. Okay, we're talking about it all the time. And once again, leading the top of the hour with another Caitlin Clark topic. Caitlin Clark didn't make the U.S. women's national team for the upcoming Olympics. Some people are outraged. Some people are fine with her not making the Olympic team. And I'm sure there are some, and by some, I mean a lot, of WNBA players that are quite pleased with the fact that Caitlin Clark didn't make the Olympic team. I'll be honest, because I am Indianapolis's honesty broker. I'm just going to tell you how I feel. And that's just, that's just the way that this works. I don't care. I don't care at all that Caitlin Clark was not selected to the Olympic team. Okay? Because even if Caitlin Clark had been selected to the Olympic team, there's no way that I was going to watch any of their games. No way. I doubt most people would have watched them play even if she made the team. Why do I say that? Because the United States women's national basketball team crushes everyone in the Olympics, in FIBA. Any sort of like country versus country thing, the United States women's teams, they seem to destroy everybody, especially in basketball. Okay, like the games aren't close. In 2016, they played in the gold medal game against Spain. They beat them by 29. The game wasn't close. In 2020, they won the gold medal game against Japan. They beat them by 25 points. Okay, they absolutely destroy, dominate, whatever words you want to put in there. They blast their opponent out of the building. They crush everybody that they play. So even if Caitlin Clark made the Olympic team, I might have watched the first quarter. I'd have sat down on my couch, been like, you know what? They aren't doing any of like the big time track stuff today. Let's watch some women's hoops. I'm like, oh, look at that. First quarter. Oh, they're up by 25. Let me watch literally anything else because I'm not sticking around to watch a blowout. I don't care who's playing. I'm not. I'm like, it doesn't matter the sport. If it's a blowout, I'm not watching. Okay? And I think that's how most people operate. Like if the women's national team, like I don't think people are going to watch, not only because Caitlin Clark isn't playing, but also because none of the games are being close. Like they aren't. All right. With that being said, if my boss was here, he's on vacation. I need to have more of an opinion on this than it doesn't matter. Right? Like I should have more of an opinion, and I do. I'm of the opinion that they should have put Caitlin Clark on the Olympic team. Okay? Like it is not out of the ordinary for rookies to be placed on the Olympic team. The NBA has put collegiate players on the Olympic team before. 1992, the first dream team ever. They put Christian Laettner on the Olympic team. He wasn't the number one overall pick. It was Shaq that year. And, if there's any year to not put an incoming rookie on the Olympic team, it's 1992, the first year that the NBA could actually put their professional athletes on the Olympic team. Like that was the year to not put a rookie on the team, but they did it anyway. And it's kind of this recurring thing where the NBA puts younger players on the Olympic team, guys like Tyrese Halliburton this year and Anthony Edwards, right? Because you want to indoctrinate guys that are going to play for you in the future. You want to indoctrinate the guys that are going to be focal points of the league going forward. That way in 4 years, when they bring on new players, it's not a full new group of 12. You've got a couple guys that have been there before. That is what the WNBA should have done. Okay? Like they should have put her on the team for that reason alone, because she's going to lead this team at some point, and she needs to know what the schedule looks like. How does practice work? Are there any new different rules? Like you just want her to be normalized with it. And to make matters worse, Christy Brennan of CBS gave a quote that she got from some sources as to why they didn't put Caitlin Clark on the team. It's total crap. It's total crap. Here's the statement from Christy Brennan of CBS. Open quote, two other sources, both longtime U.S. basketball veterans with decades of experience in the women's game, told USA Today Sports Friday that concern over how Clark's millions of fans would react to what would likely be limited playing time on a stacked roster was a factor in decision-making. If true, that would be an extraordinary admission of the tension that this multi-million-dollar sensation who signs autographs for dozens of children before and after every game has caused for the old guard of women's basketball. The two people spoke on condition of anonymity because of the sensitivity of the matter. In other words, Caitlin Clark signs too many autographs. Okay, we got these WNBA players, these older women who've been in the league for a long time. They sit around and they're like, hey, everybody, please pay attention to women's basketball. Okay, they've been yelling it for years. Please pay attention to us. We are good at basketball too. That is what they've been saying for a long time. And, you know, the audience, people like you and me, we have sat around and we said, you know what? No, you guys aren't interesting enough. So we aren't going to give you our time. If you want us to give you our time, then just be more interesting. And here comes Caitlin Clark, someone that is making people pay attention. And the WNBA is like, hey, pay attention to us, but also that one player that you like and you want to pay attention to, she will not be here. We are not going to let her play with us because you guys like her too much. But please still watch us. Like that's what's happening right now with this Olympic team. Okay, this is a mistake that the WNBA and whoever runs, you know, the U.S. women's basketball team is making. Part of why the NBA is so successful is because it's a global sport. Okay, Caitlin Clark has the ability, she has the opportunity, or she had, not anymore, she had the opportunity to grab people's attention on a global stage, and the WNBA turned that opportunity down. Okay, because the truth of it is, this, you know, women's national team is going to thump everyone that they play. So why not have her on the team? In terms of results, it doesn't matter which WNBA players they choose. They could pick the 12 worst players in the league, and they would run through this tournament because, look, the U.S. women's team is leaps and bounds better than every other team across the planet. Okay? So it didn't matter who they chose, and they should have picked Caitlin Clark. She should have been on the Olympic team, but pettiness and drama has gotten in the way of the WNBA's success once again. And of course, Caitlin Clark was asked a million questions after practice earlier this week on not making the roster. She, of course, had comments on that. To open this audio clip, she's answering a question of just her reaction to not being selected, and then she answers several other questions. Here's Caitlin Clark on not making the Olympic team for this year's 2024 Summer Olympics.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for the girls that are on the team. I know it's the most competitive team in the world, and I know it could have gone either way of me being on the team, me not being on the team. So, you know, I'm excited for them. I'm going to be rooting them on to win gold. I was a kid that grew up watching the Olympics. So, yeah, it'll be fun to watch them.
What was your level of disappointment not having your name on the roster?
Honestly, no disappointment. Like, I think it just gives you something to work for. You know, that's a dream. You know, hopefully one day I can be there. And I think it's just a little more motivation. You remember that, and you know, hopefully in 4 years, when 4 years comes back around, you know, I can be there.
Did you have a direct conversation with managing director, whoever's over there at USAB recently?
Yeah, they called me and let me know, and before everything came out, which was, you know, really respectful of them, and I appreciated that. And they did the same for every girl that made the team or every girl that didn't make the team. You know, there's a lot of players in the Olympic pool, so it wasn't like I was the only one they had to call. They had to make quite a few calls.
Are you looking forward to a break, you know, from Olympic action? Basketball in general, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going to be really nice. I mean, I've loved competing every single second, but it's going to be a great month for my body to, you know, first of all, like, get rest and get healthy and just get a little time away from basketball and the craziness of everything that's been going on, and, you know, just find some peace and quiet for myself. But then additionally, like, a great opportunity for us to work and get better, a great opportunity for myself to get in the weight room, to work on the court and work at things that I want to get better at that I maybe didn't have time going from college to the pro season. So I'm looking forward to it. But at the same time, like, we still have a month of games where we have a lot of opportunities to win a lot of games. So that's where my main focus is.
That was Fever star guard, the face of the WNBA, Caitlin Clark, on not making the U.S. Olympic team this year, which she should have made I don't think it's the biggest deal in the world. She's clearly disappointed, though, in not making the Olympic roster. But once again, just a master at answering questions. She just does such a good job. She doesn't start crap. She doesn't respond to crap that other people start. She just wants to hoop. It's nice. It's refreshing. Okay, I like what she said about how, this is just now something for her to work towards. Like, that's a good outlook to have on it. And the other thing is that there is a bright side in this for Caitlin Clark. She finally gets to rest. Okay, the first game of her final college season at Iowa happened on November 6th, 2023. She is in her 8th consecutive month of intense, high-level basketball. It is. She needs a break. Doing anything at a high level for 8 straight months isn't easy. It wears on your body, especially with as physical as the WNBA is. She needs a break. And for reference, the NBA, the Mavericks, and the Celtics are now in their 8th straight month of playing basketball. They started a week or two before Caitlin Clark did. Like, that's a long time to be playing basketball. Okay, the Fever season is set to end late in September. That's, if they make the playoffs, they'll play into October. And if Caitlin Clark were to have made the Olympic roster, that would have been 11 straight months of high intensity basketball. It's like, well, Jonathan, you just said that they were going to blow everyone out. You don't think that those practices are going to be physical? They don't like her. If she was on the team, Diana Taurasi and those girls would, they would go after her in practice. They would. The documentary on the 92 Dream Team, they talk about their practices, and those practices were tough. Okay, so does it suck that Caitlin Clark isn't on the Olympic team? Yes, it does. Okay, is it the end of the world? Not really. Is it a good thing for her in the long run? Probably. Is it good for the Fever? Yes. For the Fever, it is a great thing that Caitlin Clark didn't make the Olympic team because, once again, she needs a break. And I know that there are people out there like, Jonathan, she's only 22. She's young. She's fine. She'll recover. Not a big deal. Look, even when you're 22 years old, your body still needs rest. Okay, especially if you're doing this much physical activity and you're getting bumped and held and all those things night in and night out. The difference is she doesn't need as much rest as like a 35-year-old. Okay, those 3 weeks for Caitlin Clark are going to be huge for her going forward. The rest is needed. It's well-deserved. Like, she doesn't need to be in Paris playing more basketball that most people are going to turn off when the U.S. team goes up by 30 points at the end of the first quarter anyway. This is the best thing for her, and this is the best thing for the Fever and for the rest of their season because they want to make the playoffs, and, they might be able to do that. The other thing, though, that I've taken away from this is that this news came at not the best time. I said the last week that Caitlin Clark is the most polarizing athlete we've seen since Tim Tebow. Everyone has an opinion on her. We talk about her all the time. Here I am, once again, Monday morning. This topic led my show, and it's leading my second hour because it's important. This is one of the biggest topics in the sports world right now. In addition to saying that Caitlin Clark is the most polarizing athlete we've seen since Tim Tebow, I also said that eventually that will be a bad thing. Okay, right now it is great exposure for the WNBA. They have never been talked about like this. They've never been focused upon like this. But eventually, people are going to get tired of the drama. Eventually, people are going to get Caitlin Clark fatigue. Okay, at some point, doesn't have to be right now. Probably needs to happen within the next several weeks, though. At some point, the conversation around Caitlin Clark needs to be about basketball. The issue is she just hasn't been good enough at the basketball part for people to talk about that. So people have resorted to talking about the drama and all these other things that are going on around her as opposed to her actual game. And she was finally great. Not good, not above average, not good for a rookie, legitimately great on Friday night against the Washington Mystic. On the road, they win by 2. Great game. Caitlin Clark finishes with 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. And she was efficient in the scoring. 8 of 15 from the field, 7 of 13 from 3. Like, that should have been my leading topic today. I should have been able to sit here and be like, Caitlin Clark was awesome on Friday night. Let's talk about it. That's what it should have been, but that wasn't it. That's not what I'm talking about. I went back on Saturday morning and I watched the whole thing because I missed some of it on Friday night. I watched the full game. She played a good game outside of the turnovers, but let's be honest, we don't care about the turnovers because she did all the things that we love. She made some impressive passes. She made some not so impressive passes. That's why she had 8 turnovers. But once again, we will ignore those. She hit a ton of threes. She hit a deep 30-foot sidestep three. It was great. It was entertaining. It was everything that people wanted and expected for Caitlin Clark to be. And the issue is, if the continued trend of discussing the WNBA is fueled by drama, then people will eventually tune the WNBA out because they're just going to get tired of it. Like, I'm already getting kind of tired of it, but that's okay. It's the way it goes sometimes. The WNBA has got to figure out a way to make things about basketball again, or they're going to start to lose all of this momentum that they've gained. Speaking of momentum, Boston Celtics, man, they've got a lot of it. They're up 2-0. You know, after watching these first 2 games, if you wanted to tell me that Boston was going to sweep Dallas, I wouldn't like it. I would disagree with you, but I would understand why you have that stance. I'm going to get into the finals, game 2, when we come back. I also made a $50K bet. So we're going to talk about that when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Eating
The best takes, stories, and entertainment. It's The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Tickets, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? The Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Tickets. I want to move into the NBA Finals. Game 2 was last night. Boston Celtics take a 2-0 lead. But I made a promise to my mom, and I have to keep that promise. So I found out the other day that in early June, there is a race in Indiana that runs the entire Monon Trail. You start in Sheridan, and you run all the way to downtown Indy to the garage. It's a 50K. That's 31 miles. That's absurd. That's a long way to run. So my mom, huge runner. Okay, like she just ran her second marathon. She's going to run another one at some point. I'm willing to bet. Like she loves it. She enjoys it. It's great. I'm glad for her. Okay, so the other day, I'm on Instagram, swiping through reels, and I come across this video. This guy running the 50K race along the Monon Trail. And I sent it to my mom on Instagram because I thought she would like it. Okay, I'm trying to be a good son, okay, because like moms like to hear from their kids, especially when they live 6 hours away. So I'm like, hey, Mom, this is content that I think that you would like. So I sent it to her. Conversation ensues. We have now reached a point to where if the Mavericks win the NBA Finals, I will run this 50K, 31-mile race with her. That deal was made. It's my emotional hedge, right? Because, for my new listeners out there, full disclosure here, I am a Mavericks fan, right? So this is my emotional hedge where if the Mavericks lose, then I'm going to be happy that I don't have to run a 50K because I hate running with passion. It sounds terrible. I don't know why people run. I don't know why I agreed to this. But at the same time, if the Mavs come back to win the series, I'm going to be so filled with joy, I could probably go run the entire Monon Trail right there and then. So that happened, and now I'm locked into it because you guys know about it, and you're going to hold me to it. So 31 miles, geez. Talking about the actual NBA Finals now, I'm not worried about having to run these 31 miles because the Celtics look like they're going to win this series. Okay, the Celtics did exactly what they're supposed to do. They won both games at home despite not shooting the ball well last night. They defended home court. Okay, the Mavericks were much better in game 2, albeit like just looking at the vast majority of everything. Okay, the Mavericks looked better in game 2. Luka had a much more normal game, 32 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists. Like that's a great game for Luka. Okay, the issue was that Kyrie Irving struggled again. 6 of 16 from the floor in game 1, 7 of 17 from the floor in game 2 for only 18 points. It's not going to cut it. It's not. Okay, the Mavericks got some contributions from their role players in game 2, unlike what they did in game 1. PJ Washington scored 17 points in game 2. Gafford had 13. Derrick Jones Jr. scored 11. Like when the role players show up, then your stars better show up as well. Okay, Luka did, and Kyrie didn't. And that can't happen. Can't. Okay, the other thing for Dallas was they didn't shoot well from anywhere. They were 6 for 26 from 3. They were 7 for 27 in game 1. Like, you have to shoot the ball better than that. I thought their looks in game 2 were better. They just didn't make them. Okay, Luka was 4 of 9 from 3 himself. That's great. Okay, that's Luka being Luka Doncic, right? Everyone else, though, 2 for 17. The Mavs have gone out of their way to surround him with shooting, and those shooters have to be better. You can't be that bad. You can't shoot 2 for 17 in the finals and expect to win. And if the Celtics had shot average from 3 at any point, then they would have blown the Mavs out. And that's ultimately what separated them late. They were 4 of 6 from 3 down the stretch, and that helped them kind of push away from Dallas and win the game. And that's just what Boston does. They generate a lot of good 3-point looks. And in addition to Boston locking up Kyrie Irving, Dallas gave up 10 offensive rebounds. Look, you can't do that if you want to win. Dallas also turned the basketball over 15 times and gave up 21 points off those turnovers. That can't happen. Can't. The fact that Dallas only lost by 7 is pretty nuts. They deserve to be blown out last night. But the fact they only lost by 7, like, there has to be some feeling of like, hey, like, we should have lost by a lot more, but we only lost by 7. Like, maybe we can figure it out. And the reason why they only lost by 7, and the reason why I think that they can figure it out, is because some of those mistakes are fixable, and the Mavericks are playing good defense. Okay, especially from game 1 to game 2, the defense was much better for Dallas. Their rotations on defense were much better. When you play Boston, you're going to give up open threes. You're going to. The question is, how many? And I thought Dallas did a good job of limiting them. But you have to score at some point if you're going to win. If you're not going to score 100 points, you're not going to win very, very many games. And they didn't. Right? You also have to make free throws. Boston, 19 of 20 from the free throw line to Dallas's 16 of 24. Okay? They didn't shoot well from 3 or from the free throw line. And on top of that, like, it's hard to win when you don't do those two things. Okay? And when we look at Dallas and we look at this series and just everything that has transpired so far, the reality is that the Mavericks' half-court defense has been more than good enough for Dallas to win. Boston is averaging 96 points per 100 possessions in the half courts through these first two games of the finals. That is worse than their playoff average and almost 10 points worse than their playoff average and regular season leading half-court offense. Okay, like, the Celtics in the half-court are the elite of the elite. And Dallas has done a good job of limiting them. They just haven't had the offense to allow them to win games. Like, when we look at Dallas and why they're losing, it's because Kyrie Irving's not scoring. There's too many turnovers, and there's too many transition points allowed. That's what's killing Dallas. And those things all seem fixable. Like, I expect for Kyrie Irving to get going at some point because he's Kyrie Irving. Maybe I have too much faith in him. I don't know. That's kind of the way that it feels to me. And you would think that at some point they would rein the turnovers in, but maybe they don't. Right? And, keeping things kind of on the bright side here for Dallas, I thought the offense looked better in game 2 than it did in game 1. I thought they got more looks. You just have to make them. You can run the best offense of all time, but if you don't finish the play, it does you no good. Okay, I'm officially worried. I'm not panicking, but I am worried about this series for the Mavericks. I'm picking them to win game 3 because you can't fake desperation, right? Like no matter what happens in game 3, Boston knows that they're up 2-0. Dallas knows that they're down 2-0. Therefore, Dallas is just going to play harder. It's just a human nature thing, and human nature is something that is never it's undefeated. Okay, the Mavs will play more desperate in game 3. They'll be at home, so I'm taking them to win on Wednesday. My concern, though, for Dallas is with Kyrie Irving. And I've said this on the air before. I'm going to continue to say it during basketball season. Basketball is made for big people. It's made for big dudes. It's not made for guys that are 6'2" anymore. You got to be big. You got to be 6'4", 6'5". And when you watch the Mavericks, Kyrie Irving is 6'2", and it's glaringly obvious. Okay, he is by far the smallest guy on the floor at all times, unless Peyton Pritchard of the Boston Celtics is also on the floor. Right, the size and the length of these Boston Celtic defenders has swallowed Kyrie Irving up in spots, and that's why he's struggling. And that is one of my favorite things about Tyrese Halliburton. He's tall and he's long. So we should never see him get swallowed up by any defender. He faced this same Celtics team through 2 games in the Eastern Conference Finals, and he was never swallowed up. Okay, like he, has the size and the length to withstand that. With Kyrie, though, like, that's what's happening. When he gets to the rim, it feels impossible for him to finish. And sometimes he does because he's Kyrie Irving and he's one of the best small finishers that we've ever seen. But every jump shot he takes is contested because even when he creates space, he's got a 6'8", 6'10", 6'6" guy closing out on him. And it just makes things so much tougher. The length and the athleticism of the Boston Celtics is on full display. And it's most notable when they're defending Kyrie Irving. It's also noticeable on offense when they pick on him. Okay, like the Boston has done this really interesting thing where, usually when teams are on offense, they'll take a big guy and they'll put him in the dunker spot, which is basically right by the basket. That's not what Boston is doing. They're taking one of their big guards, usually defended by Kyrie Irving, and they're putting them in the dunker spot. That way Kyrie Irving is playing help defense, right? Because let's be honest, it's way easier to finish over Kyrie Irving than it is Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively. So Boston has just done really good things to exploit the lack of size that Kyrie Irving and the Dallas Mavericks have, and it's had a major impact on this series. And the issue for Dallas is you can't take Kyrie off the court. He's too important offensively. He is. So if he's not going to be able to get stops, and if Boston is going to abuse him on the defensive end like they have done so far, he has to be impactful in scoring the basketball. That's what Kyrie has to do, and he hasn't done that. Scored 12 points in game 1, scored 16 points in game 2. He's got to be better. Hasn't made a 3 yet. He's gotten some good looks at it as well. And at some point, Dallas wants to win any game. Kyrie Irving has to play well, and hopefully that starts in game 3 because I want this to be a good series. I think that everyone does, and in order for that to happen, Kyrie Irving has to start to play well. Jason Kidd also needs to do a better job coaching, even though I feel like the defense has been good. I feel like they've gotten some good looks on the offensive end. They just aren't making them. So I don't think he's been terrible. But he said something pretty terrible over the weekend that I do want to address before I continue to talk about the Celtics and just how tough they are and how their offense is so great and why the Pacers' offense is similar. Before I get to that, though, I do want to talk about Jason Kidd and just this absurd comment that he made over the weekend. I'm going to play the audio of that when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
Unadulterated sports talk with unfiltered takes. It's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Tickets, 1430 AM and 99.5 HD2.
What's going on? The real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Wrapping up today's show. Did some stuff on Caitlin Clark. Yes, she should have been on the women's Olympic team, but doesn't matter. Who cares? They're going to beat everybody by, 30-plus points anyway, which means that you're going to turn it off once the game becomes a blowout. So it's not that big of a deal, okay? That's what's going on with Caitlin Clark. Celtics took a not really commanding. They took a 2-0 lead last night on the Dallas Mavericks. They defended home court. They did what they were supposed to do. Now it's up to Dallas to do the exact same thing. They got to go home. They got to win games 3 and 4. They got to figure out their offense. And one of my favorite parts of watching this Celtics team has been just the offense. They run such good offense, and part of that offense is Jaylen Brown. And Jason Kidd was asked over the weekend or after game 1, he was asked about Jaylen Brown's impact and why he's so tough to stop. And in this response, he says something that's just not true.
Well, Jalen's the best player, so just looking at what he does defensively, he picked up Luka full court. He got to the free throw line. He did everything, and that's what your best player does. Just understanding. He plays both sides, defense and offense, at a high rate, and he's been doing that the whole playoffs. I mean, when you talk about the Eastern Conference MVP, and it seems like he's continued to pick up where he left off. And so he's playing at a high rate. We just got to be a little bit more physical with him. And again, we got to keep him off the free throw line and out of the paint because, again, he was finishing at a high rate or he was getting fouled and getting to the free throw line.
That was Jason Kidd saying that Jaylen Brown's the best player for the Boston Celtics, and that's just wrong. It's not true. Okay, he's trying to throw a grenade into Boston's locker room, because Jason Tatum very well documented that he loves Kobe Bryant. And I think there was some hope of, a Kobe Bryant disciple would then be like, no, I am the best player. And that he would kind of ruin that Boston Celtics beautiful offense. And he didn't. And the worst part about this is that this is an idea that has been floated out a few times over the past couple of years. And it's not true. Okay. I know that Jason Kidd was playing mind games, but there are a lot of people out there who believe this actually. And those people, they're going to point at the box scores of games 1 and 2. As their evidence. And they're going to point at the fact that Jaylen Brown won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP as their evidence. Here's the thing, though. Jason Kidd, who said Jaylen Brown was the best player for the Boston Celtics, has put his best wing defender on Jason Tatum, not Jaylen Brown. Okay? He has also shown 2 bodies to Jason Tatum multiple times. The Pacers put their best wing defender on Jason Tatum, not Jaylen Brown. Okay? The Cleveland Cavaliers put their best wing defender on Jason Tatum, not Jaylen Brown. The Miami Heat put their best wing defender on Jason Tatum, not Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is a talented player. Okay, he is. He could be the best player on a lot of different teams in the NBA. So when you have a player that's that good and you put a lesser defender on him, he's going to score. He's going to put up numbers. He is. That's what happens. And Jason Tatum has grown. He has matured to a point where he's willing to step back and say, you know what? Jaylen Brown has a more favorable matchup. So let's get him the ball. That's just called being a good teammate. That's what good teammates do. They sacrifice for one another. Okay. And I think that throughout this playoff run, we have seen Jason Tatum sacrifice some offense for the betterment of the team, because there are moments where Jaylen Brown has Kyrie Irving on him or somebody like that, and they allow him to go to work. And that's what good teammates should do. And that shouldn't take away from the fact that Jason Tatum is one of the 6 basketball players on the planet. He didn't play well last night. He didn't. And despite not playing well last night, he was a rebound away from a triple-double. That is a statement we make about the best players in the world. So-and-so didn't play well, but the stat line was crazy, right? That's the thing. Like, Jason Tatum didn't have a good game by his standards. He has struggled to shoot the basketball in games 1 and 2, but that happens to good players sometimes. In spite of that, though, Jason Tatum has made a large impact in other areas. He's rebounded well. He's defended well. Okay, don't let the last two Celtics games fool you. Jason Tatum's the best player on this roster. Okay, and at some point, his shot is going to start to fall. And as a Mavericks fan, that scares the piss out of me. Okay, once he gets going, if Kyrie doesn't show up, the Mavericks don't stand a chance because the Celtics offense is already overwhelming, and adding a Jason Tatum that's actually making shots into the mix is just going to make it feel impossible to stop them. And I think that's been my favorite thing to watch throughout these playoffs. Like, this Boston Celtics offense is great. And the reason why the Boston Celtics are so great on offense is because of Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford. Okay, they have this ability to shoot the ball. They're able to step 30 feet away from the bucket and make shots. And that ability makes things so much easier on everyone else because they can stand 30 feet away from the basket. There's no one at the rim when guys get downhill, which means that when you get into the paint, someone has to collapse. Okay, because if they don't, then it's a free layup. Right? So when they collapse, the ball kicks out. The defense is then in rotation, and Boston gets a wide open three. It makes them hard to stop. They did it to Miami in the first round. They did it to the Cleveland Cavaliers in the second round. They did it to the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. And now they're doing it to the Mavericks in the NBA Finals. They generate just an incredible amount of wide open threes, and it's all done the same way. Their best players, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, beat guys off the dribble. Then they kick it out, and they're only able to run this kind of drive and kick styled offense because of Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford's ability to shoot the three ball. It makes them so much tougher to stop because they've got two bigs who can step out to the 3-point line and shoot the ball. And this is a trend in the NBA. The best offenses in the NBA this year were the Boston Celtics at 122 points per 100 possessions, the Indiana Pacers at 120.5 points per 100 possessions, and the Oklahoma City Thunder at 118 points per 100 possessions. Okay? Like, those three offenses were the best in the league this year. And they all have two things in common. They have multiple guys who can handle the basketball and get to the rim, and they have bigs or centers that can step out and shoot the three. The Celtics have Porzingis and Al Horford, like I just highlighted. The Pacers have Myles Turner, and the Thunder have Chet Holmgren and their backup center, Jalen Williams, who's more of a power forward. Like, they all have guys that they all three have bigs that can step out and consistently knock down threes. Okay, in the NBA, if you're shorter than 6'10", you better be able to shoot the basketball. Okay, but if you're 6'10" or taller, and if you can rebound and you can finish at the rim, like, you're going to play in the NBA for a long time. That's why I think that Khalil Ware is going to play in the NBA for 8+ years, okay? Because he can finish at the rim, he can block shots. You know, he's a good enough passer. That's why he's going to play in the league for so long. Okay? But if you have a big guy that can shoot the three, it's like having a Tempur-Pedic mattress, okay? A normal mattress works just fine, okay? Like, the Mavericks have done just fine without a center that can stretch the floor. But a Tempur-Pedic mattress, it's a luxury that just makes your life better. Okay, and that's what having a big guy who can shoot the three does. It is a luxury that makes your life better, which means that Myles Turner is a luxury for the Pacers that makes their life better. Okay, the Pacers led the league in points scored in the paint this year, and that's because of Myles Turner. If you don't believe me, watch the Celtics in the finals. Every shot they get at the rim is so much easier because they're either at the bucket alone or they're finishing over a non-big. Okay, the Pacers did the exact same thing this year. When you have a center that can space the floor, it makes things easier on everybody. It makes things easier on everyone. Okay, Otter Creek, major point here, right, in the YouTube chat. If you want to be a part of the YouTube chat, go to YouTube, search for Indy Sports Ticket, subscribe. You can watch the live streams there, and you can be a part of this fantastic community of people. Otter Creek says the bigger part is that it draws, meaning centers that can shoot threes, it draws out the big defenders and gives Brown and Tatum lanes to score. That is what Myles Turner did this year for the Pacers. He pulled the bigs out of the paint and opened up lanes for Andrew Nembhard and Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam and these guys to go and score. Having a center like Myles Turner that can space the floor makes things easier on everyone. Also, three's worth more than two. So if we can make more and take more threes than our opponent, then we're probably going to win. Okay, so many of the Pacers' shots at the rim were easier this year because Myles Turner was 30 feet away from the basket. Okay, and as I sit and I watch these NBA finals, this, thing about Myles Turner just sits at the forefront of my mind. I don't know what it is. I can't stop defending Myles Turner. Okay, that's just the way that it is. I sit there and I'm just like, I know that there are Pacers fans watching this series. And I know that there are some that are like, I wish Myles Turner was more like Kristaps Porzingis. Okay, and I'm here to tell you that they're the same player. Now, let me rephrase that. Kristaps Porzingis is a better basketball player. I am in no way saying that Myles Turner is better than Kristaps Porzingis because that's just not true. Once again, Indianapolis's honesty broker right here for you. Just, I'm going to be honest the whole way. Kristaps Porzingis is better than Myles Turner. But their impacts on their teams, especially on the offensive end of the floor, is the same. Okay? So yes, I'm not here to tell you that Myles Turner is better than Kristaps Porzingis. But I am going to tell you that they have similar impacts on the offensive end of the floor. Okay, I'm out here. I'm defending Myles Turner. I've picked up my sword. I'm ready to go to battle for this guy. I don't know why I do it. No one ever seems to agree with me. But I just don't know how people can watch this Boston Celtics offense and not realize how much easier it is to score when you have a center that can step out and shoot the three. That's what Myles Turner does for the Indiana Pacers. And it was an important aspect for them this year, right? Because it not only creates more opportunities to make threes, but it just makes it easier to finish around the rim. Myles Turner, very important. That's why he's making $20 million a year, because he can space the floor and he makes things easier on everybody else. Okay, having a center who can step out and shoot it, that is important. So, Caitlin Clark, jeez. Ooh, sorry. Caitlin Clark left off the Olympic team. Do me a favor, because I don't think this is a super big deal. Like, I don't think people care enough about the U.S. women's, national team for this to be a big deal. I really don't. Okay? It's like, be honest with me. Go to Twitter, tweet at me at __ Jonathan Smith, and just tell me, do you think that Caitlin Clark being left off this Olympic roster is a big deal or not? Because I don't think that it is. Because even if she was on the team, I don't think you would watch. Because they crush everybody. Okay, they won the gold medal in the 2021 Olympics. They beat Spain by 29 in the gold medal game. Like, you aren't going to watch that. They're going to go up by 20 and in the late first, early second quarter, and you're going to be like, okay, that's enough of that, and then you're going to move on. Okay, and then that was in 2016. In 2020, they beat Japan by 25 in the gold medal game. Come on now. Even if Caitlin Clark was on that team, you wouldn't have watched. You wouldn't have. There's no way. Because we don't stick around to watch blowouts unless you gamble on the game. That's the only time that people stick around. But casual watchers, you're not sticking around to watch the women's team win by 30. You're not going to do that. Okay? You aren't. I don't know a world where people watch blowouts, especially when there are other things on. Okay? Especially when there are other things on, like the men's team. I can't wait for men's basketball in the Olympics. I think it's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be so great. I can't wait. I got Otter Creek coming at me about Myles Turner, saying he sucks. That's fine. He also says that Ben Mathurin 6'4" and can't shoot. It's time to get rid of him. Since when is shooting 38% from three defined as not being able to shoot? Because that's what he shot from three this year, but before he got hurt. So I don't know about that, but that's gonna do it for the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Just a fun show today. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Ticket1430. You can watch the live stream there, or you can head over to Twitter, search for Indie Sports Ticket. You can subscribe there, watch the live stream there, be a part of this great community, join the chat, do all those fun things. The Dan Dockett Show coming up after mine. Download the Indie Sports Ticket app to be able to stream his show from noon to 3. You can also stream mine there from 10 to noon. But yeah, tune into Dan's show. It's a normal Monday. We got Todd Leary coming on. We got Kent Sterling, the Power Hour from 2 o'clock to 3. Thursday, 1 o'clock. IU great, Detroit Pistons great, NBA great, multiple-time NBA champion Isaiah Thomas is joining the show. That's at 1 o'clock on Thursday. Can't wait to get Isaiah on here. Should be a great time, especially with him and Dan being such good buddies. So that's coming up later on in the week. As for me, Tony East, he's going to join me on Wednesday. We're going to talk Clark and the Indiana Fever. They're playing tonight, 7 o'clock. Can't wait. Should be a blast. Also, let me know. Follow, once again, my Twitter at __ Jonathan Smith. Let me know if I should run this 31-mile race with my mom or not. Should I just bite the bullet and do it anyway? Should I just be a good son and do something with my mom? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Thanks for tuning in to the Real Jonathan Smith Show. The Dan Dockett Show is coming up here in about 5 minutes. You can tune in tomorrow and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday from 10 to noon if you want to listen to me. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to listen. I'll be back on the air tomorrow at 10 o'clock, and I will talk to you guys then.